All right, Kev, I'm ready. Ready to talk about season two and give everyone our season two recap. What do you want to start us off with?
All right, so I made a comprehensive list about my breakdown of the season. So I feel like there was like seven sort of episode arcs that went sort of throughout the season. Some of them overlap a little bit, like Bounty Hunter sort of multiple times. Um, I feel like yeah. I sent you part of this a little bit before, but I don't know. They call this the season of the bounty hunters. Was like the tagline for this, right? And
Well, tons of bounty hunters. We meet a lot of bounty hunters. We meet Boba Fett, I think, for the first time. Young Boba Fett. He's going after Mace Windu. We meet Cad Bane, his crew. We meet uh, that lady bounty hunter who's training Boba Fett. I can't think of her name right.
yeah, but don't you feel like don't you think the bounty hunters were like kind of the weakest part of the season, though? I mean, they call it the season of the bounty hunters. That was their promo stuff. They certainly begin and end with the bounty hunters. But I don't know. Do you feel like it's like all just getting to Boba Fett and that was the whole point of the whole thing?
I think my two issues with the season is that bounty hunter episodes were weak, and you're trying to build up this expectation for bounty hunters, and you see like a 9 or 10 year old Boba Fett, or what supposedly is like a 9 year old, 9 10 year old Boba Fett, and the fact that they rehashed a lot of plot points the first season.
They did, and we had these weird out of order episodes. That's actually one of the things on my on my sort of season recap was about just out of order episodes. And like, what was the reason? That Senate murders episode actually happens in the middle of season 3. It's part of a multi-part storyline from that, and then Cat and Mouse is like the prequel to the whole thing. So I thought it was kind of weird that those are thrown in here.
The part growing pains and seeing where we're gonna go, like they were just throwing the episodes anywhere. So years ago, probably 10 years ago, there was a show on Fox called Almost Human. It was about a human cop with a cyborg leg who teams
I
up
kind
with
of
a
remember that.
cyborg. Yeah, and I love that show. And they placed the show out of order, but you didn't know it till like the sixth episode. And you're like, wait, we already knew about that person. Why are they meeting him there? And then like you see the ending, like the season finale was like the third episode in the season. You're like, wait, we saw all this. So people were like low ratings, and then like football or baseball came back, and they just got rid of the show completely. And then I bought like the DVD pack of it, and I watched it in order. I'm like, this show's amazing. Like it's a detective work that builds up the arc. Whereas this story, when you kind of show it out of order, you have these two or three little episode arcs, but there's no real overarching, other than the war. There's no like overarching story that really connects them. You kind of just follow like the day in the life of people at this point.
Yeah, I don't know. I just feel like there's shows that do that better. Like The Witcher obviously was very out of order and it was very confusing until you figured out what they were doing. But it was that way for a reason. I don't and it sounds like the show you were talking about, it was out of order for sort of real world, more practical reasons. But in this case, these are just like, I don't know if they were just filler episodes. They didn't really, if they just really didn't flow with the original, the original storyline as told. Or, well, I guess here, you know what? Actually, I do have an explanation for each episode, right? So I feel like for the out of order episodes, I feel like for Cat and Mouse, I feel like that's chronologically essentially the first episode, but I feel like it wouldn't have been a great first episode, right? Like we know Admiral Yularen now from seeing him as the narrator, and and I mean obviously we've always known Anakin, but I feel like if you had this as the first episode, it would have been a little bit boring, like just like, oh, okay, this random guy that now Anakin's doing a thing with you know, and the other characters really aren't in it as much. You know, I kind of feel like they maybe they had this idea in their head, but they just didn't want to use the first episode.
Yeah. It's also a lot of like the first episode kind of plays off the last episode where you're introduced to these like, or last couple episodes of season one where you're introduced to these deadly bounty hunters, and the first episode comes in and you're reintroduced to these deadly bounty hunters. So I think that's part of the reason, and then part of the reason is a lot of shows is the in their infancy before they really take off, the corporate bigwigs, they're in charge, like, oh, here's what we think's cool, because the rumor is that seasons 3 through 7 are very, very good. So what my thinking behind that is that once people caught on to this show, that the producers and everything went, okay, just do what you guys need to do, like, we'll play it in order, we'll just you guys take the lead and we'll follow. Like, it was one of those things, like, they're not sure if a 7-season cartoon will really catch on.
Yeah, so for more real world stuff. Well, when I say first episode for this, I mean first episode of the whole series, not of this season. Obviously, this would have gone before the whole season. So I think if you remember the first episode of the whole series, it was that Yoda episode, and I feel like they like really punted there, right, or really like sold out because they were like, well, okay, well, even the old fans know Yoda, so we're going to have Yoda as the main character of the first episode, even though he's really not a focus of anything else since then. Like, he's been in other episodes, but it's kind of weird if you think back that the first episode was 100% Yoda episode. I feel like I think that was like a sellout.
I've only seen him a handful of times since then.
Yeah, exactly. And for the other one, for the Senate Murders one, being, again, I think it's sort of like a season 3 storyline. I guess that might have just been like a retroactive, like maybe they just had this one-off episode, and then like in season 3 they were like, hey, we should do more with that one, like we have a little more to talk about that plot. I feel like that's probably how that evolved.
But not to go off topic, but my favorite plot so far is the whole Mandalore plot, that 3-episode arc where we meet Duchess Satine, and we see the relationship between her and Obi-Wan, and we get to learn a little more about Obi-Wan, and we kind of start seeing the dark side of Anakin. And I think out of all those 22 episodes, that was the best arc in the series so far.
See, I like the I like the Geonosis stuff better, but I think there is sort of multiple times throughout the season we're just sort of learning more about Obi-Wan. That's one of the main things we get from the Mandalore plot. We see that Obi-Wan has had these love interests, like we talked about before. We see him a little more as a person, and we see the same thing in sort of the third like mini arc was when Grievous kidnaps a Jedi. And then you see Obi-Wan's obsession with Grievous at that point. So it's sort of, you sort of see back to back, because it's the Grievous episodes, then it's the Mandalore plot is after that, and you sort of see back to back this idea that Obi-Wan isn't this perfect Jedi, that he has obsessions, basically. This revenge obsession with Grievous, this obsession with not obsession, but he has this love interest with Satine. We see this stuff that is un-Jedi-like of Obi-Wan.
But we did talk about, I'll come back to your Geonosis thing, but we did talk about relationships with the Jedi, and we kind of see how, many times relationships in the Jedi aren't like healthy relationships. We see Anakin, and we see Padme, and like that's not like a healthy relationship. And then we see Obi-Wan and his relationship with Grievous. That's kind of like borderline, like not healthy either. Like, he is obsessed with it. But then we finally do see like a real type of connection between Obi-Wan and Duchess Satine, where it's like, he's like, they spent a couple years on the run, or a year on the run together, and he's like, oh, if you would have asked, like, I would have left the Jedi Order. Like, it was one of those clear thinking moments that you kind of see like a real relationship between two people. And because she never asked, like he never tried to go after her.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, that's definitely another thing. We see. I think we talked about it in a couple episodes ago. Like we see Anakin in a little bit different light, maybe because of how Obi-Wan had. Again, Obi-Wan's not perfect. He had this relationship as well. So it should paint, I think, how we see Anakin and how Obi-Wan sees Anakin, how Anakin sees Obi-Wan in a way. I'm curious if they're going to explore that stuff like that later. We don't really get any hints of that stuff in the prequel movies, but it's possible. We might see that more in the future seasons. But yeah, I think with the Mandalore plot too. I think there's a couple other themes with that. One is similar themes to the prequel movie where we have, the Senate's manipulate it in order to bring war essentially. And I think that's a pretty interesting. I think in the prequel movies, people were mad. Or back when they came out, I remember people sort of criticized the politics of like, oh, okay, we're watching 2 hours of like senatorial hearings. But here, I think they actually do a little better with it. Where you see more of the real life consequences in more real time than you do in the prequel movies.
Yeah. I actually really like the politics of the movies. But to go back to what you said about like the Geonosis and a couple other, I forget the last planet we visit with the Zillo Beast, but there are a couple plots. The Mandalore plot, it drives like the politic part, but there are a couple plots in season 2 that also drive like this war. Like we go back to the Geonosis, which like kind of has your horror elements, but they're on trying to recapture Geonosis or trying to keep it from falling so they can have like a port or fuel. And then we go to the Zillo Beast and they go to that planet to kind of protect that planet so that they can have that planet can keep creating fuel for these starships. So you get some little arcs that go to the war, but then you do have the Obi-Wan obsessed with Grievous, chasing him to that planet, and then you get the 2 arcs about the farmers.
Yeah, so there's a real sense of and I think they do a good job with this. So you're saying there's a real sense of the overall galaxy and the overall storyline and sort of an overall progression in the war on top of these little personal stories, which, yeah, I do think is a really, really good, again, what this does better than what the prequel movies did. Because in the prequel movies, I don't think you really get that sense of the war. It's just like good guys are winning, then bad guys are winning, then good guys are winning, then bad guys are winning. Like there's no progression really, and then it just ends with like, now he's Darth Vader. I guess the bad guys won. Like, like Order 66. Like it's just like out of nowhere. There's no ramp, to get to that. I mean, there is in the personal story, character stories, but there isn't in like the overall galaxy wide stuff, Whereas here, yeah, I think they do a good job. They to weave in, the whole galaxy. There's more of a sense of scale, and I think the sequel movies do like the worst job at that. It's like I feel like those stories feel so small, and then it's like, oh, but now the whole galaxy is here in their junkers to fight the First Order on this planet that nobody else could get to until everyone in the galaxy could get there now. Like,
yeah, and the both. All 3 trilogies kind of like yada yada through a lot of the day to day. Too, it's like like you said, the prequels are like the first episode, and then the second episode they're like, all right, 10 years have passed, and then the second to the third they're like, okay, 3 years have passed in the war, and then the sequels, I guess, episodes 7, 8, 9, they're like, all right, we've been fighting this war for 2 years. Like, what? Wait, what have you done? Like, please, like, go us back. Like, why are you out of fuel? I didn't even know until the Han Solo movie came out. I didn't even know fuel was a thing.
Right? Yeah, you think they would have they would have like reactors on board. I'm curious about that now.
So I mean, the sad part about this, like, I liked a lot of episodes, but I thought a lot of episodes in season 2 were kind of just filler. But as we talk about it, we kind of realize that maybe they are important, but there still are some like filler episodes.
Well, yeah, I think there are. So let me get my rundown real quick of the whole season. So essentially, you're going from bounty hunters because it's season of the bounty hunters, so we got to jump right off of the bounty hunters, and then we have the Geonosis thing, which is like its own like contained, like could have been a movie, like an awesome movie. And then we have the Grievous Mandalore plot, which are sort of which are Obi-Wan centric episodes, and then we have the Out of Order episodes, and then we have like this little short. We're back to the bounty hunters again. We have the little Kurosawa film where they're like protecting the farm and stuff, and that just seemed like, oh guys, season was supposed to be about bounty hunters. Like we just did 15 episodes not about bounty hunters, but the season's about bounty hunters. And then we do the Zillo Beast, and then it ends with the Boba Fett, the kidnapping and blowing up the ship and all that stuff. So I feel like they wanted to advertise the bounty hunter thing, but I mean, it is a focus for about a third of the season, but it's just like all this other stuff happens in the middle, and I don't know. I feel like maybe that's why it feel like how you're describing it feels that way. I just feel like the season was a little disjointed, which I guess the opposite of some of the stuff I was just talking about, but I think both are true.
Yeah, so the thing about the bounty hunters is like they don't actually like this is the Clone Wars. And so far the bounty hunters have not had like an impact on the Clone Wars.
Yeah, that's a really good point, right? Yeah, so okay, so I guess that's how both points are true, right? Because, like you were saying, we see this upward ramp in the war, in the Clone Wars, and then it's like these bounty hunters are really like a side story. So to have this side story be such a focus and be this recurring focus, it just seems like they needed other stuff in there,
See if like the bounty hunters were like, you have your Cad Bane or whatever. Like you have pirates. They're more pirates than bounty hunters, but you could have bounty hunters. Like I would love to see the Republic. Like we're hiring bounty hunters to go kill General Grievous, so we don't have to get our much limited clone troopers in there. Like that would be pretty cool too. It's like if it was more about the Republic hiring these bounty hunters to go kill separatists, that'd be one thing, but that would make the Republic the bad guys.
Yeah, the other thing too, I think what made it fail was the character of Cad Bane. Because I think in the beginning it's like, oh, Cad Bane's this big badass bounty hunter, and like he's going to be the focus of the season. And then honestly, like he's not an interesting character, and I think I don't know if they realized that halfway through, because then we don't really see him. Like after that, it's like we see these other side bounty hunters that sort of become the focus. We see Hondo Anaka multiple times, who's a really good character. I really think maybe Cad Bane killed the season from that perspective.
Yeah, his parts were a little annoying because it's like you see him and he's like standing up to Jedi, and you're like, I don't know if you could stand up to Jedi.
Yeah, I don't know. It's yeah, I think the bounty hunters are the weakest part. I think that's what we're getting at. And then
the worst episode, I have to say, for me, is the Zilla Beast returns. Like we watched the Zilla Beast, and then you're like, okay, and they're like, we're gonna take it to Coruscant, and you go, all right, that's a bad idea, and then they take it to Coruscant and it destroys it. Like that's definitely like a filler episode, and you're like, oh, that was kind of boring. Like we know what was gonna happen. You just redid King Kong.
So the thing with the Zillo Beast is, I feel like there is. I don't know if I'm not understanding something or if there's information that we don't have yet. Because I feel like, why would they bring him there? Like I feel like it's like I don't know. It's like the Chancellor's not. It's like why are you so stupid? Like I don't know. Like I don't think he is. So I feel like I feel like he had some plan in the background. And again, either I'm missing it in the episode or they just haven't really revealed it yet. And again, it's another one. I don't know if it will be in the future because I think at the end of the episodes, they basically imply that they're going to clone the Zillo Beast. So I don't know if we see Zillo Beast later or if this was like a Cad Bane where it's like, well, no one really cared about the Zillo Beast. So like that's the end of it. You know,
Yeah, I doubt we'll ever see it again.
yeah, but I mean, you have this, you have the government intrigue sort of part of it again, where there's all these like machinations of government in the background that are like interfering with what the right thing would be. You see some conflict in the Zillo Beast episodes between the Jedi and the Chancellor and the Senate and stuff. So I mean I guess it's interesting from the politics end again, but the Zillo Beast itself is just like a placeholder for something,
Right. And another thing that we talked about in the first season, which comes back up, and it's not like a rehash like we said before, but I think it's going to come up each season because it came up in a couple movies. Are droids' rights? Like we talked
Hmm.
about that, last week or the week before about how Mace Windu doesn't understand like what's wrong with your droid, Anakin. And there is a droid's rights, you know, discussion in this season again, and I think that's one of the things that's going to keep coming up, and I think that is pretty important because the Separatist army mostly droids, and you see these sentient droid bots that can think and everything. So we'll see how that gets along in the future seasons.
I think what's interesting with that too is that I think there's two different. I think depending on how you're looking at it, there's two different ways I think people probably think about the droids, because I think there's a deeper discussion of like, what's considered life, and I'm sure we'll continue to talk about that. And then there's also the you know, like surface value, like oh, I guess like the uncanny valley thing, right? That like droids like R2D2 are have all this personality attributed to them because he's sort of like in a sweet spot uncanny valley wise, right? He has the personality and he's like human looking enough that you can attribute all these emotions to him, but he's like he's not like maybe like the battle droids that are like you know bipedal
Killers.
and look more human and are just you know there's no like cuteness to them, like R2D2's like a cute character. So I think Anakin and Ahsoka, I don't know, attribute a lot of maybe a lot of feeling and emotion to R2D2 that like isn't there.
Right, it's droid, and yeah, it's just like it has to be kind of along the lines of like a dog or a stuffed animal where you have a pet or any kind of pet where you have this emotion, and like if you just died, like the dog would just eat you.
Yeah, well, not even a pet, because I mean pets probably do have emotion, but I have Alexa products everywhere. Like I got Alexa in my car now, and like sometimes I'll like be like, "Hey Alexa, how you doing?" And like she'll usually has a funny answer, but like it's just a computer. Like there's just some like scripted answer to that question. Like it's not like but when you have an AI thing like that, like you ascribe some emotion to it,
Yeah,
or
well, it makes you feel good. You try to ask, you talk like I think your thing with the Alexa is that like it's never gonna really argue with you. It's just gonna make you feel good. Like how you doing? And it just gives some scripted funny answer, which is pretty hilarious.
yeah, like the one a couple weeks ago, I forget. Oh, I think it was after Seattle got knocked out of the playoffs, and she said something like, well, after that Seahawks game last night, I kind of feel like Tom Brady's football is a little deflated."
Yeah.
So
So I'm you know I'm looking forward. I don't. Do you have anything else on season two?
no, that's really it. I think,
Yeah.
yeah, it was good. I'm looking forward to future seasons because I keep hearing that like these seasons sucked and like the future is great and these are great. So I'm excited.
Well, spoiler alert, first two episodes of season three, and they are great.
Nice.
Oh, the animation. Something that we've talked about before. The animation for these first 2 seasons is like up and down. I feel like the animation for this season 3 is like better rendered. Like it looks better. So
All right, as will our hopefully YouTube videos continue to look. We're going to progress along with the style of Clone Wars. That's our plan.
yeah. So, um, well, I enjoyed season 2. I enjoyed talking to you about it. I hope you guys enjoyed listening to us talk about it, even though just like season 2 and season 1, we were a little disjointed sometimes, but that's not going to change. Looking forward to season 3. For Kev, I'm Jay. Thanks for listening to this week's Whole Wheat Costa. You can check out our podcast at Spotify, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts. I just found out it's on iHeartRadio. Kev's working on YouTube videos. Thank you for listening.